Hi guys, welcome to my start to finish bedroom rental makeover. Let's get into it. Hi, I'm Haley. Welcome to my home. I moved into this apartment a year ago with my boyfriend and my dog. It is very beautiful. I feel super grateful to be here. I've lived in Chicago for 7 years now, and I've moved almost every single year. So I've lived in a bunch of different places, and this is my first place that is not a studio apartment. So I feel super lucky to have rooms finally and to be able to decorate them individually, give them their own color schemes and vibes, which is a really big deal after so many studios. I adore the space. It's the coolest place I've ever lived. The only thing is it's really modern, which is not how I would describe my style at all. I like a lot of old homes. I like old things. So the challenge with this space is going to be finding ways to mix in the old with the new, add a little bit more charm in, and make it feel a little bit less cold. Decorating takes time. I think especially today you see a lot of very quick transformations. Again, I'm coming up on a year of living here, and it's absolutely not done. I finally feel settled in this room. I knew I wanted to focus on one room at a time, and I wanted to start with the bedroom because I think it's so important to feel good in the room that you sleep in so that you feel well rested and restored. It's just a really important space for your well-being. Overall, I think bedrooms can be really simple, and that's what's beautiful about them, because when you have a really calm space, that will bring a calm mindset. I am, however, a very eclectic person. I like collecting things, and I knew I wanted to have a gallery wall, which is kind of the opposite of that, but I purposefully put it on the wall that's on the same wall as the bed so that when you are facing the other direction, you're looking at a very clear wall, and then you're not seeing any visual clutter when you're going to sleep. When I'm designing a room, I like to start with some inspo and then work on a design plan. I knew I wanted this room to feel super lagoon-like, very dreamy. I wanted blue walls, a very calming space with a mix of some feminine and masculine elements. I drew a ton of inspiration from Lucy Williams' living room. If you don't know her, she has a gorgeous house, so definitely check it out. Let's talk paint. Before you come for me, I swear paint can be renter friendly. You really just have to ask your landlord. Some people are cool with it, some aren't. I'm going to have to repaint everything back when I leave, but for me, a few days of painting is worth it for every day for the next year or 2 years that I spend living here and looking at these walls. This color paint is Selvage by Farrow & Ball. I think it's absolutely stunning. I painted it in the finish Dead Flat, which is a really matte wall finish. So you can see there's not a lot of shine to the walls, which I kind of like in contrast with all of the shiny frames. I decided to color drench this room, which is a term that just means painting the ceiling and the walls and sometimes the trim all the same color. I love this for a bedroom especially, or any kind of like dinner cozy space, because it automatically creates this feeling of like cocooning yourself because you're just wrapped up in this color. I also love it for bedrooms because this is the room in which you're going to be laying down and looking up. So isn't it nice to look up and see a pretty blue ceiling? I started by completely priming this entire room with a warm primer, and you know what? If I were to do this again, I would completely skip this step because I already had neutral gray walls. Again, I am just renting here. It's not my forever home, so I don't think that like minuscule difference of how the color goes over the primer would really matter. Pro tip when you are painting is to invest in one of these paint roller extenders. I did not think it was necessary at first, and it was so necessary. When you are painting, you don't want your hands to be above your heart because that's going to make your heart rate rise, and that will make the painting way harder. So you should always be keeping your hands down lower and really using the pole to extend your paint roller. I also invested in a good paintbrush this time, which is a Booster, and it was night and day difference from the cheap paintbrushes that I normally buy. I'm not in the camp of just telling you to buy things that you don't need, but this truly made a massive difference, and I was super grateful that I did it. When you are painting your ceiling, it is important that you paint in the direction of your light source. So my window is this way, and I painted in strokes going towards it. That is because when the light hits, if it is going against your paint strokes, it will look really streaky and it will make a difference. So just paint it in a direction and you'll be all set. Okay, so for the gallery wall, I actually started thrifting frames over a year before I moved into this apartment. Every time I went to the thrift store, I made a rule to find at least one good frame. That would make me actually find something if I just looked enough to find one good one. If you want to thrift all of your frames, it will take time, especially to find the larger ones. And that is actually tip number 2 for a gallery wall, is try to find as many large frames as you can and stay away from collecting too many of the little 4x6s. I say that because they are easier to find at the thrift store, but if you have a ton of little frames, it will make the room look more cluttered. When I was looking for frames, I primarily was looking for gold ones, but I wanted to mix in some other textures as well. Tip number 2, I think we're on 2, is around hanging. So I put all of my largest frames in the middle and I just spanned out and got smaller as I went onto the sides. I laid out all of my frames on the floor before I started to hang them, just so I could kind of understand the sizes that I had to work with. I know that some people get really detailed with this and they'll do the thing where they trace out all of their frames and then they put that on the wall. I personally just think that's like so much work and really overwhelming, so I just kind of laid them out, started in the middle with the biggest ones, and then tried to kind of evenly space them when I hung them, but like, don't think too much about it. I think you can really overthink this stuff. It's easier to do than you think it is. Tip number 3 is around the actual art itself. I found that I liked to keep most of the art that's in the frames if I could, and the reason for that is just that it has a faded look, and when you start putting in prints that you got from Walgreens or whatnot, or even like new prints that you buy, they look much more saturated and brighter, and you can kind of just tell which ones are the prints and which one's the old art. That said, once you actually put all of the art on the wall, what's in the frames won't matter as much. I think if you zeroed in on a few of these, you'd be like, oh, that's kind of a boring piece of art, but when it's in the mix, it doesn't really matter. However, some of my frames had some really ugly art pieces, so I did switch them out, and I have a few tips for how to make those prints look a little bit older. The first is you can use Mod Podge and brush strokes onto it so it looks like someone painted it and you can see the brush strokes. That helps a lot. Something else I did when I was looking for art is I got a few wallpaper samples from some of my favorite brands, and then I framed those. I'm pretty much using all furniture that I already had. I had this bed frame from West Elm. It was relatively cheap as far as bed frames go. I think it's $350. I'll link it below. It's very simple, but I like it a lot. My side tables I've had since my very first Chicago apartment, so going on 7 years. They were from Wayfair. I think the last time I looked, they no longer sold them, but I'll link them if I find them, or I'll link something similar if I can. These sconces are from West Elm. I love using wall sconces instead of table lamps in a bedroom because my side tables are always cluttered with books, sleep masks, lip balms, phone charging. They are plug-in because I don't have hard wiring here, so that's a great option for renters as well. I got these specifically because they move side to side and then they also tilt, which is really important functionally when you're thinking about laying in bed, reading, whatever you want to do. Even though these are a super low wattage warm light bulb that I put in here, it can still sometimes be a lot of light, so I like to just flip it if I need. If you can find sconces that are on dimmers, that's even better, but definitely something to consider for your wall sconces. And then let me show you. I have this bench at the edge of the bed that I actually got from Facebook Marketplace, and then I reupholstered it for a project that I did with Dremel, which I actually did a YouTube video with them on, so I'll link that below too. And then Poppy actually uses this as a little den, so if you know Chihuahuas, they're always cold, so she has a 24/7 heating pad in there and all of her blankets, and that's where she hangs out mainly. Next, I want to talk about swapping out your lighting. This is such a slept-on, renter-friendly hack. I don't know why people don't do it more. I think people are scared of taking down the old light fixture. Take the old one down, store it away, swap in a new one, and then you can change it out when you leave. This is a rice paper lantern from Hay. It is pretty modern, which I like because of how modern the apartment is, but then I juxtaposed it with a ceiling medallion, which I painted in the same color as the ceilings and the walls. Ceiling medallions can be renter friendly. You can use command strips to hang them and then use some nails to secure them because it is not something that you want falling down later. I, however, have a concrete ceiling, which is a continual problem for me that you will see. So I can't nail anything up into the ceilings. So I did glue mine up. If it leaves any marks, I'll just sand it down when I repaint. So no harm, no foul there either. Next topic is bedding. I have tried a lot of different bedding, and my favorites are Brooklinen, which is what I'm using for my duvet and my sheets, and Parachute. I know that those are a little pricey though, so you can also get a lot of really good deals on bedding at TJ Maxx and HomeGoods. I don't know what she's doing. Miss. Okay, I just got some throw pillows. A couple pro tips. The first is to always buy pillow inserts that are 2 sizes bigger than your pillow covers. This will make them look really fluffy and full. The second thing that you can do with pillows, if you buy them online like I did, and they come in and they're super flat because they've been shipped, you can throw them in the dryer for a few seconds, like 10 seconds, and they'll fluff up. I am going to go do that, and then we can put the pillow covers on. I added this checkered bed skirt to just add a little bit more whimsy to the room. These pillow pieces are Ballard design, and then these pillows I thrifted. I did wash them, don't worry, but it's nice when you can mix something nice with something cheap, and then that kind of makes up the cost difference. For curtains, I got these blue velvet drapes from Half Price Drapes. They ended up matching the wall color perfectly. I didn't buy samples before I ordered them, so it was a total shot in the dark, and it worked. I love them, and they are actually a very good price for velvet drapes. I got 2 panels for each side. I probably could have done a few more, but I was just kind of trying to do it as cheaply as I could. My windows are ceiling to floor and wall to wall, so I had to hang a pole that would attach into each side wall like a closet. So I actually got sockets that were for closets, and I drilled them up into the sides, and that worked perfectly. It did start to sag a little bit in the middle because I do have a lot of width for the windows, and the drapes are pretty heavy, so I did have to have a TaskRabbit come back to drill into my concrete ceiling to add a support in the middle. So yeah, we did drill into the ceiling, but I'll just patch it when we leave. I have a hack for the curtains as well. I have 2 panels on each side, and when you pull them shut, it can be annoying if there is space in between the curtain panels because the light will shine through. Ideally, you should just sew them together so it creates one big panel, but as you saw, it was a pain in the butt to hang these up by myself, and I don't want to get them back down. So the lazy girl hack is stitch gun. I use this all the time. My friend Maureen told me about them. She works on sets as a costume designer, and she said they use them all the time, and so it just does one little temporary stitch. It's like what they use to attach the tags to your clothes, that little plastic that can rip apart. Bring the seams together and apply a little stitch on the back side, and then that kind of keeps it together. So I did that all the way up and down, and it is really helpful for not having any gaps between the panels. As a reminder, this was the before, and this is the after. Okay, that is it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked it, and I'll link everything that I can below. And have a lovely day.